You know, we put a lot of importance on today when a president rolls out his budgets, but as you can see, we've gone through, it's been at least 3 presidents, 2 different parties, 5 different Senate leaders that we've got a budget on time out of the United States Senate. Is this the description of a process that's just become broken and polarized?
Well, it is a process that's not working, that's for sure, but that overstates the fact that almost every time previously to the last 3 years, the leadership in the Senate has moved a budget forward and at least attempted to pass it on the floor of the Senate. This is the first time the majority leaders basically said, I won't even try. But the most important thing today is what the president's budget says and what it will do. It lays out his plan for the future, and it is utterly irresponsible. And Mr. Liu's statement that it would reduce deficits by $4 trillion is just totally incorrect. It accounts, for example, when we have it eliminates the cuts approved by the sequester and replaces that with a $1 trillion tax increase. Really, it's close to $2 trillion total, and that these tax increases are shown as reducing the deficit when all it really would do is to replace new spending and to pay for the sequester that's eliminated.
Well, look, there seems to be
an irresponsible budget of monumental proportions and does not change the debt course set last summer with the Budget Control Act at all.
Well, when it comes to that, I mean, this is where there seems to be a fundamental disagreement of the 2 parties. You brought up the tax hike. The president, when he was a candidate, campaigned against the Bush tax cuts, and in fact, one of the reasons I know you guys are hitting him for this broken promise on having the deficit that he made in 2009, but at that time he also assumed he was somehow going to get rid of the, quote, Bush tax cuts. So are any sort of tax reform plans that increase revenue into the government still off the table for Republicans, still off the table for you?
Well, what I would say to you is we need to look for tax reform, absolutely. But what I would say to you on Budget Day is that the budget creates another $11 trillion in debt, almost exactly the same amount that the Budget Control Act last summer did. What he's proposing does not change America's debt course. Richard Haas on your program earlier this morning said that next year could be Greece for us. We are not changing the debt course. And they are out, Mr. Liu, and I assume his budget team will be asserting that they're making significant changes in our debt course, and it is not.
Well, let me ask you this. It was interesting, one of the aspects to the president's budget is this is the 3rd straight year he is proposing cuts to the EPA. It's the 3rd straight year that he's been calling for less spending on NASA. Some places that are surprising for Democrats to be calling for some cuts, even a freeze in the National Institute of Health on some things, on biomedical research. Isn't that a victory for your side that you have a Democratic president, 3 straight budgets calling for cuts in the EPA?
Chuck, we're on a debt course that's going to bankrupt this country. Everybody is telling us that, Republicans and Democrats and economists, and the president's budget may cut a little here, but it increases otherwise. He's going to announce great new programs for college students to try to, I guess, to encourage their turnout in this election. But the net result is he eliminates the $1 trillion in cuts that were part of the sequester, and he replaces it with tax increases. But when the whole 10 years is over, he's not made any real cuts. He may cut a little here and a little there, but is overmatched by the increased spending.
Well, let me ask you this. If we are, to use your words,
and
in
also,
this deficit crisis... Go ahead.
One thing that really is important, that the president lays out no plan for reform of Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare. Those are just off the table, and no real reform is proposed there. And if you're going to propose a plan for the future of America that puts us on a sound path, you've got to step up to the plate and lead on some of those tough issues.
I want to go back. You've referred to this as we have a debt crisis. So if we are in a crisis situation, why are tax hikes off the table?
Well, I would just say to you, we haven't reduced spending. This proposal to increase taxes basically only offsets the new spending that the president has in the plan. We're not for raising taxes to increase spending. If you have to raise taxes, and I hope we don't and don't think we have to, you should do it to reduce the deficit, not increase spending, which this plan would do.
Let me ask you about the payroll tax issue. You have 16 days to work this out. There seems to be, how serious are these disputes between the two parties and trying to get an agreement to pay for the
Chuck,
for the extension?
Yes, it's an important matter, and it's in intense negotiations. The thing I'm hearing is that the White House is being awfully demanding and tough, and the discussions haven't gone as well as people had hoped at this point. So I really don't know what will happen, but it's an important issue. It needs to be settled, and we need to set a decision for the entire year so we're not in this stopgap measures.
Are you for extending it for the rest of the year?
You know, I have doubts about the wisdom of this plan. I mean, if a person's making $150,000, they get a $2,000 check, basically, from Uncle Sam. The person making $20,000 gets 10% of that. I don't know whether this is the right way to stimulate the economy or not. I know every penny of it is borrowed. It adds to the debt. It'll add over $200 billion to this year's debt, and that's we really need to get away from more debt. I got to tell you, we need to stop digging deeper, because every time we do that, then we have to come up with even more spending reductions in the future to try to get the country.
So are you going to vote against this? Are you going to vote against the final proposal?
I'll look at it and try to be supportive. I'd love to see everybody get even more tax cuts, even more reduction in really what is a pension payment. We're paying this money is what goes to your Social Security, Medicare, retirement, pension plans that most Americans have paid into and want to receive. And it is a danger to those programs to systematically reduce what we pay into them.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Republican Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, the ranking member on the Senate Budget Committee. Thanks for coming out on Budget Day for me.
Thank you.